Good morning to everyone that is watching in the Southern Hemisphere, and good evening to my friend who's sitting, well, virtually beside me, who's in the States. So it's evening for you, babe. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, awesome. So, hi everyone. For those of you that I am meeting for the first time, my name's YTLL, and I am a transformation leader and founder of the Why Project. And I'll share a little bit about, how this series came about. But this is a series called the Live Your Empowered Resolution series, Stories of Everyday Women. And I created it for two reasons. Firstly, I wanted to be able to provide people, everyday women, some insight into the lives of other people who are out there kicking goals in their own corner of the universe. And I believe wholeheartedly that we are inspired not always by the grand gestures, but it's the small little stories and small wins that we hear from other people that can sometimes motivate us at a time when we need it. But I also created this series to champion the champions. And what I mean by that is, to give people whom we might not otherwise have met an opportunity to connect with us. So that's what this series is all about. And today I have a new champion with us, and I'm really excited, Charmaine, and I'll get to that in a minute. But I would love for you in just a moment to introduce yourself. It's been a tradition that I've sort of started, and I think I'll just roll with. But before I get into that, I'll, of course, pay my respects to the traditional custodians of the land that I am sitting on here in Melbourne, Australia, in Kew, the Wurundjeri tribe, who are part of the Kulin Nation. Pay respects to elders past, present, and of course their emerging leaders of tomorrow, most importantly. So without further ado, Charmaine, my dear, may you introduce yourself to our audience today.
Oh, definitely. Thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. I love your mission, and I'm so honored to be a part of this. So my name is Charmaine. I'm from Southern California, and I am a registered nurse. I was a registered psychiatric nurse for 8 years at UCLA, but I actually left my job last year, my secure quote unquote nursing job, to fulfill my passion, which is to be a life and weight loss coach for women who want to eliminate sugar cravings and lose weight for the last time. And it's really my mission to help women just feel comfortable being in their bodies. And I also like this concept of like taking up space and not being apologetic, like just showing up as they are in this world, having the confidence to do that. So that's just like my life mission, and that's what I love to do now.
Oh, I love that. You know what I love, and I want to pull that out as well, is you mentioned helping people so that they can basically break a cycle for the last time, so lose weight for the last time. Talk to me a little bit, I guess, about your journey, so to speak, first, and then we can dive into other stuff.
Yeah, definitely. So I do want to say, just as a caveat, that I haven't been overweight per se for most of my life, really, but I've had a emotional eating, stress eating issue when I was a nurse. Like, I actually never realized I had been emotionally eating or stress eating until I was in nursing. But once I tracked it back, I realized, oh, I actually have been eating to cope with a lot of emotions, like for years. But anyway, when I was a nurse, I was stressed, and you don't know how to cope with stress. Like, you're never taught, how do you cope with your difficult emotions? How do you cope with stress and trauma sometimes that you come across in the hospital? You have patients who are dying on you, patients who want to, especially in psychiatry, you have patients who want to kill themselves, like really high acuity patients. And you're never taught how to manage those feelings. So when I became a nurse, I just learned that, oh, when you eat food, you feel better. So I just kept eating food to the point that I actually became pre-diabetic in 2017. Even though I was healthy, I was like a personal trainer, I was fit as a 27-year-old, diet still matters a lot, even if you're working out a lot. So that opened my eyes to this whole world of like, oh, what am I using food for? Like what am I trying to avoid with the food? And it helped me lean into these emotions that I've been numbing for so long. And that world, just like when I opened up my world to discomfort and my emotions without food, that just opened up the whole world to me. And then I just found myself in this place of like becoming a life coach I never ever thought I'd do. But because I went on that journey of like, well, I call it sugar-free self-care. That's my brand. It's like, how do you take care of yourself without sugar? That opened up my mind to all these possibilities I never thought possible for me. So that's what I help women to do. Like, how do you take care of yourself without sugar? Yeah.
Absolutely. In terms of, I want to pull something up because I've heard this in the last probably days, which I know we've been working together, so maybe that's why I heard it. But this idea of numbing ourselves, and I think that's really important because when I heard that term, I was like, oh, is that what I've been doing? And I don't necessarily think you realize it until someone sort of talks about it. Can you share a little bit about what that experience was like for you?
Oh yeah, definitely. And you're right. Nobody knows they're doing it. I didn't know I was doing it. It took me a diagnosis of prediabetes to realize it. And it was just a routine lab checkup. Like I wasn't even concerned about diabetes, but diabetes does run in my family and stuff like that. But yeah, didn't see that coming. But anyway, when you numb emotions, it's basically like we don't even know we're doing it though, because well, first of all, we live in a culture where feeling bad is discouraged. Like whenever you ask somebody, how are you doing? You only want to hear, oh, I'm doing good. Like you don't want to hear that you're doing bad or it's awkward. It's weird. Like we're in this culture where happiness is idealized and any other emotion is completely like, not allowed basically. And I even see that this is just a side note, but I see this in my culture too, like in Filipino culture and Asian culture, like mental health issues are really stigmatized in a lot of cultures, especially American culture too. So anyway, you're like basically in this culture where you're not allowed to feel bad. So when you do feel bad, you don't know what to do. You feel like something's wrong with you. So you're taught in this sort of consumeristic society we have, it's like you're taught to the only way to take care of yourself is a few things. You could buy something, you could eat something, or you could go somewhere. That's like how you take care of yourself. And so we're given all these messages from marketing and all these things. So we don't even know that we're consuming because we don't even give ourselves a chance to feel bad. So it's hard. It's like we're taught to do all these things, even when you're young, to like, oh, eat this snack to feel better. And then so we don't even know what emotions actually feel like. Like a lot of my clients don't know what hunger feels like. A lot of clients don't even know what anxiety feels like.
Yeah.
I kind of went on a tangent there, but yeah.
No, you didn't. I actually think that, and I'd like to sort of, I'll just say it in Māori, but tautoko that, which means support that. That's the word that I'm looking for, because you're right. We do go through this experience of, firstly, no one likes hearing, when people ask me if I'm not feeling okay, well, good friends, I'll be like honest. People don't like deal with that, and I get it. So I try and kind of numb that down so that other people feel better for how I might be feeling. But you're right. I think we don't know how to express ourselves openly, and therefore we're forever trying to lean on various vices. And those things do look like food, or sometimes it's alcohol, or it's, shopping, or all of those different things. And that's an important conversation for people as well. What would you say, because you mentioned that a lot of your clients, which makes sense, don't even know that that's what they're doing. How does that sort of conversation start for you with them?
Right. Like the reason why people come to me is weight loss. Like it's just, oh, they just know, they kind of just wake up one day and they're like, oh crap, like I gained like 20 pounds, 30 pounds, you know, especially during the pandemic, like, which is why I like the pandemic. It was such a great opportunity for people to see what's going on mentally, you know, like, and so a lot of people, actually a lot of my clients, like I signed during the pandemic and I'm still working with them, but it was like a great way for them to kind of see like, oh, wow, why am I gaining so, like, why did I gain like 30 pounds in this pandemic, you know? So they come to me for weight loss and that's what they want. But then when we start working together, they start to see when, because I encourage them like to, you know, not eat sugar and processed carbs like regularly. That'll help with weight loss and it also helps with cravings. But when they take that away, food that they have never really set limits on, when you take that away, then you start to pay attention to your habits. And then you start to see what your triggers are, because that's a big thing. Like I teach people, what are your triggers to eat? And most of the time, it's not hunger. Probably 95% of the time, it's not hunger. It's oftentimes stress, anxiety that people don't even realize they're feeling until you tell them, take away the food for a second. Like I always tell them, like you have to plan your food ahead of time. And when they don't have the food that they normally just reach for without thinking, now your feelings come up. And then that's when we get to start identifying what are those feelings? Like, why is that there? And then we could start working on how to manage that without food.
Yeah, I think that's really important because you know what? I think before when I, you know, like I say the whole world is on some sort of diet, right? I don't care what kind of diet it is. Everyone's always on a diet, whether it be exercise diet, food diet, no sugar diet, blah, blah, blah.
Social media diet.
Yeah, right. So it's the buzz thing to be on a diet. And what I like there is the rationale behind taking it away so that you can unpack the why. Like, why am I doing all of this stuff? Why am I numbing myself? Why am I like doing this on autopilot? So that's really interesting because I haven't heard anyone speak about it in that way. And I actually think that's actually a good way of putting it, because I think with my personal experience, the one thing that I hated with, say, diet, so to speak, is it's either, say, a restriction. So, you know, you're approaching it with a negative connotation of, should I be doing this? You know, why am I doing this? And constantly thinking about it. And so you get yourself in a wrong frame of mind, as opposed to, hey, let's just do this so that you can then realize the why you're doing all of that to begin with. Yeah, awesome. Okay.
Right. It's not even about the food, because that's where most people get, I think, sidetracked with weight loss programs. Like they always focus so much on the food. And I love, like, I'm really deep into the nutrition rabbit hole. Like I'm also a certified keto health coach. Like I love learning about the science and the hormones, like, and all that stuff. But I think the one thing that unfortunately is missed out on in that world is they don't talk about the emotional work that comes into play when you eliminate the sugar. Like if you're on keto or something and you eliminate the sugar, they don't talk about the emotions that come up there. And that's the thing. Like, I do actually like quote unquote restrictive diets, because it's true. It's like, it does reveal to you what is going on emotionally, like why you are reaching for that food. So it's just, framing it. It's just like, I don't like thinking of restriction as you're taking away something, but I like thinking of it more like it's just an opportunity to be curious. Like, why do you need it so much? Like, what are you actually hanging on to? What are you trying to avoid with that? And taking it away is what gives you the opportunity to see what's happening. Like, just as a quick example, because like when I was stressed in the hospital, that's when I'd always eat. Like, you could tell a nurse is stressed in the hospital by how much they go in the break room and how much they're eating. Like I would see this all the time when nurses are stressed, they're just constantly eating in that staff break room. So I would keep eating. And then one day I was like, after I was pre-diabetic, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to stop eating these cookies. So I like stopped eating the cookies and I felt the stress and I was like, okay, why am I stressed? And then I realized, oh, it's because I'm taking on all these tasks. I'm not delegating to anybody. I'm doing all the things on my own. I'm a perfectionist. I'm not being a team player, like all these things. So then I learned, oh, I have to learn how to kind of, prioritize, delegate, and be a leader. And then that gave me the opportunity to evolve and actually be a better leader in the unit. So it's like the emotions aren't the problem. The emotions are the opportunity to grow. Like they're actually telling you what you need to work on to get to the next level of yourself.
That's awesome. I'm going to try and reframe that. The emotions are the opportunity. They're like the red flag to say, hey, what's going on? Yeah, that's so important. And look, just to sort of concur with you, you're right. And I've been having this conversation myself with different people, is that I feel one of the missing elements in a lot of, say, fitness programs, and I am generalizing here, but a lot of it is all about the outcome, so the actual result, and there's no work to kind of help people to unpack so that they can start to understand why they're going through the different cycles that they are, and then get some, take some tools and some expertise and some guidance to help them break through that to land where they want to arrive. So, perfect. Okay, well, I'm hoping some people are getting some good stuff from this. What would be, I think, say for you in your experience, some of the most common things that you hear when you're working with people around this?
Like in terms of managing their emotions, or what comes up for them commonly, kind of thing?
Yeah.
A lot of it, well, I coach ambitious women, like women who tend to be in very busy or high stress careers, like attorneys or nurses or entrepreneurs. So a lot of it is related to work stress, kind of like me. It's kind of like you attract what you went through yourself. So a lot of it is like work-related stress. A lot of it has to do with relationship issues. Also, a lot of social eating comes up, like a lot of quote unquote social eating pressure comes up, like people pleasing kind of issues come up. And a lot of it is a lot of it is stress related, and yeah, that's the biggest one. Work stress and trying to fit in socially is like what I hear a lot of consistently. And so it's like about helping you learn, like, how do you, like, why is the stress there? Like what's going on with the work stress? Like why, and also seeing too that the emotions you have, like, they're only patterns that are repeated because you're getting something out of it. Like you have a benefit from it. So I like to help people see their patterns, like their habits, like why are they always habitually making a stressful situation for themselves, and how to break that. And then also with social situations, like how do you learn how to just be honest with other people? Like how to not have a relationship based on people pleasing, and how do you be comfortable in your own skin, like confident enough in your own skin to communicate with people, like to say no sometimes. And so we work on that a lot too.
Yeah. Look, I think this is such an important conversation for people to hear, because, just to sort of reiterate my last point, most of the focus when it comes to health and fitness is on the outcome, on the exercise, on the dietary component, which is, I get it, all of that is important, because you're creating new patterns of behavior. So I understand that, but, helping people continue through this cycle, that really is the key, because from what I found, and I know this morning, I was just sharing prior to us jumping on, how just this morning, I'm getting ready and I'm thinking about our conversation, and then all of a sudden my mind went blip and I started beating up on myself, just for whatever reason. I can't remember what I was saying to myself, but I caught myself in the middle and I was like coaching myself out of that. And I thought, oh man, it's just one of those things though. I feel as though that's a lifetime work. Can you talk to me about this? And look, I know because I saw some of your posts earlier, but talk to me about, okay, so you get to a certain point and you're happy, but then the journey is ongoing and you could have a week off, or you go on holiday and, you're living your best life. And then you come back and you're like, oh, hang on, this isn't, what's going on here? Talk to us about what that part of the journey looks like.
Oh man, that's such a great point. And I'm so glad you brought up like the self-judgment piece, because that's a huge part of the weight loss work that, again, nobody really talks about. Like, because I was a personal trainer, and you're right, we are very like results focused. It's just like, hey, this person lost weight in 6 weeks. Woohoo, but nobody talks about the growth that had to take place to get there. So something big that I teach my clients, because I teach like, there's kind of like two major groups of my clients. It's like people starting weight loss and people maintaining weight loss. So when you're maintaining weight loss and you're keeping it off, first of all, the work never ends. You have to keep doing the coaching yourself and looking at your emotions. That never goes away. Emotions are always there. But the number one thing that will keep someone successful for long-term weight loss is accepting your imperfect self. Like, that's the number one thing, because if you are constantly trying to use weight to make yourself feel better, to make yourself worthy, to make yourself happy, it will never work, because it's always just chasing that result, and the result will never stay permanent. You can't always control the weight. Like, there are tactics, there are things, but the number will always fluctuate. So what the most important thing is, weight loss is all about your relationship with yourself. And if you're willing to accept yourself, even in the times where the number might go up, even if you're doing all the right things, the number might go up. I go into that too. Like, weight fluctuations can be caused by a lot of things, like sleep, exercise, carbs, like hydration, like so many things. But anyway, but the most important thing is, if you can accept yourself throughout the entire process, that's what leads to less beating yourself up. And then that's that openness when you're able to when you're loving yourself at every step of the journey, you'll have more openness to see what's actually the problem. Because if you're judging yourself, you're going to not want to look at it. It's going to feel too painful. You're going to want to quit. So just as an example, like what I shared in my recent post is, like, for me, for example, like, I've been a weight loss coach for several years, but then recently it was my birthday. So I ate a lot of things I normally don't eat. And I actually weighed my heaviest weight. So in that moment, it was kind of like, the only reason why I got out of that was like, oh, okay. Like, it's okay, Charmaine, like having that relationship with myself where it's just like, it's okay. Like, it doesn't mean anything about you. It doesn't mean you're not your problem. Like, we can learn from this. Like, a lot of people do not know how to do that.
Yeah.
And so they use food to try to correct that. And that the food won't solve that, because it's not a true relationship with yourself. You have to learn how to actually connect with yourself and actually love yourself, like actually accept yourself in every step of the way.
When you said that self-acceptance and accepting to love yourself, that really, that kind of hit me here, because I was like, oh yeah, because man, that's it. We continually, even the best of us, even the people who are coaches and leaders and, fitness people and all of that, our ego gets in the way, or our mind gets in the way. And it really is that self-acceptance of love, isn't it? Loving ourselves at the worst. Well, no, at our perceived worst.
Right.
Because look, between you and I, we know in that mindset space that a lot of the dialogue or the story in our head is not really real.
Right.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. That's a really important piece for women to hear, men as well, of course. But I think because we fall victim to society and all the marketing, to your point earlier, all of these different messaging of perceived perfection, that is constant for us.
Mm-hmm.
Everywhere we look, it's a constant. So yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, oh my goodness, gosh, I could talk about a whole bunch of things.
I'm curious for you though. Like, what was it about that self-acceptance piece that you think sort of hit your heart? I guess.
Yeah, thank you for asking me that, babe. What hit my heart? I feel it was just, that reminder, because it is, even if you go through this journey of self-care and self-love, I feel as though a big part of that is so ingrained in us. Mm-hmm. And then I took this moment to go, oh, do I really love myself? Mm-hmm. Love myself in that way is what mm-hmm. I mean. Like as far as, health, because I looked at myself, and this is how I brought myself out of that pattern that I was going through this morning, is I looked at myself and I was like, you still look the same. Mm-hmm. It's been the last week since we were in, workshop, and I've been working crazy hours, working in US hours while being on the other side of the world. And so diet changes during that time, and I'm eating things just to sort of stay awake and keep sustenance, but that's not my way of life. Right. So I was kind of beating myself up, and then I thought, I did this thing where I put myself on the scales, and as a rule, I personally don't weigh myself because mm-hmm. we get caught up in the number. And so I told myself, I was like, don't weigh yourself. What do you need to do that for? You know why you're feeling like you do, mm-hmm. and that's okay. And you look the same, but it's just, but of course then I didn't listen to myself. And I think that's a big thing for women to hear. We don't listen to ourselves. We take our bad advice, not our good advice, and we do the one thing that we shouldn't do. And, I pulled myself off, and then I self-coached, and I was like, it's not about that. Forget about it. But to your point, to go back, and that's something that I want to reflect on myself, it really is about that self-love and acceptance of, how we are, and the nourishing our body. That's the way I see food and health now is, let's nourish our body. Let's give ourselves good food that our body enjoys. Let's go and get some exercise so that we can feel good about ourselves, whatever that might be. It might be a walk, it doesn't really matter the what. Just having a completely different relationship with all of those things, as opposed to it being a negative. So it hit my heart because I was like, oh, that's so true. We don't love ourselves enough about things that we should, especially when it comes to, how we feel or look. So I hope that did that sound good, Coach? Did you believe it?
Yeah, no, that was amazing. I was just like, I was just, curious about why that seemed to strike a chord with you, because I just feel like it's something that a lot of women just don't do. It's like our love is so conditional for ourselves. It's like we only love ourselves when we reach a certain condition, just like, when we reach the weight, when we eat properly, when we sleep properly. Like there's just so many conditions we put on our relationship with ourselves that we reject ourselves constantly. So I was just curious to hear your viewpoint on that. So thank you for
that. No, that's nice. And you're right. We do have conditions for ourselves, right? And that's a beautiful reminder. God, it's funny. I laugh because I realized on this journey that I've been on in, say, the last 12 months that I really do know nothing. And it's the constant reminder of bringing it back home that it's not about positioning yourself as the expert. It's about positioning yourself as being open to receive messages, even if you know what the messages are and you've heard them before or you preach them. So, yeah, I really appreciate that you flagged that, and I'm going to definitely be more conscious around that relationship with self. I already feel better. See you,
Nice.
everyone.
Yeah, it's just part of that awareness. It's just like what I love about weight loss is just like it's not even about the food. It's just what is your relationship with yourself like? Like if you're not eating nourishing foods, why is that? Like if you're not prioritizing your movement or your sleep, like why is that? Like what is your opinion of yourself? Like it's just such a fun kind of thing to explore. So I think it's just for anyone watching, it's just a great thing to reflect on, what's your relationship? Because this is the problem. This is the pattern I see with all the women I coach too, is that everyone else is put in front of them before themselves. Like this is always the common message. Like my ladies always tell me, like, their family comes first, their patients come first, their clients come first. And so it's just interesting to explore, like, why is that, and what's wrong with putting yourself first, like taking a look at that. Because a lot of women think it's selfish, and so we do work on that. But yeah, it's a very interesting thing to explore.
Absolutely. And I think that's important. I'd love your take on that, because as women, and again, I'm not being biased to the sexes in any way, but as women, we are programmed, I feel like it's just, in our DNA to put everyone first. And self-care is such a low priority. I'd be interested to hear, I was just trying to think, I'd be interested to hear not necessarily your take on the self-care piece, but maybe reframing that for people. So I think the idea of self-care has to do with, say getting a massage or, doing something. What would you be able to reframe your idea of self-care from a different perspective?
Yeah, so that's such a great question. Like the way I like to think about self-care is, first of all, I like to distinguish the difference between pleasure and self-care, because it's often confused. Like when you consume something, like when you're doing something outside of yourself to feel better, like eat something or buy something, it creates like this sort of immediate gratification, right? Like it's this immediate pleasure. That's different from self-care. Like self-care is what I say, it's like more like your true well-being. It's like the way that I define it, it's like anytime you're doing something for yourself that's helping you move towards a goal, like even if it means like saying no to something or following through on what you say you do. Like that's a big thing that I teach my clients, is how do you follow through on what you say you'll do? How do you talk to yourself? What's the language you say to yourself? That's all self-care, but it's just kind of that inner, it's that like it's going back to kind of like that relationship with yourself, like to just honor your dreams, like to really actually fulfill your real pleasure, like your real passion, your real pleasure, rather than the more immediate artificial pleasures. So I like to make that distinguishment, like, and it's true. It's like, I guess I say in three ways that, like, there's artificial pleasure, which is like that big dopamine hit you get. And there's like, from like eating stuff or Netflix or something. And then there's number two, there's like natural pleasures, I say. So natural pleasures, like when you could feel joy from things that don't require such an artificial dopamine hit, like going for a walk or doing something you love, like reading, something that won't cause like a negative effect on you in any way over time. And then the third is like that true well-being. It's like honoring your decisions for yourself, like making your goals a reality. Like that's like, to me, like the highest form of self-care. If we could put it in like a 3-ladder system or something like that. But that's how I like to classify them.
Yeah, and you know what? That is so important for people to hear. I love how you frame up that self-care and pleasure are different, and self-care isn't about the consumption of something.
Right.
Yeah, that, and then breaking it down into those 3 key areas. Wow. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. I haven't heard anyone talking about it in this way. And it's a little bit different for me because I'm exposed to, I'm exposed to this. But I think from a health, from a self-love perspective, from our relationships with our bodies, with food, with our emotions, to actually be able to break it down and frame it up in a way where we then, I think we're empowered to then check ourselves, right?
Right.
Real time, anytime when we're going through those old cycles, because the old cycles are a constant, right? It's that stuff's not going away, or maybe if you're like Tony Robbins. But even Tony would say, yeah, no.
Right. Right. Well, yes, mere mortals. Not just kidding. Well, Tony's too. But yeah, it's just trained. It's just like practice. Even Tony teaches that, like what you put your focus on, where your focus goes, energy flows. Like whatever you train consistently is what becomes your reality. Because with me, like for sure, like I was a big like foodie, and like I only, it was so crazy. Like I used to only use food before to hang out and have fun. Like that was like my only thing, like with socializing and being with my boyfriend, like it was only about food. But when I started eating like less of those foods, and when I took away the food from having fun, like I had to like rewire that new thought in my brain of like, food isn't how I have fun. Like fun can be found in other things. Like I tell my clients to diversify your joy. Like you could find food fun in so many other ways besides food. So it like opened up my world to like, what else do I enjoy? Like getting to know yourself. Like, what do you actually like to do? Like, who are you? Like, and so it opened my eyes to see like, oh, I enjoy reading. I enjoy like being outside. I enjoy listening to podcasts, like things I never actually did before. So that's a really interesting to see too. Like what do you actually like when food isn't even available to you?
Absolutely. What I believe to be one of the huge positives out of the pandemic is it really gave those of us who wanted to lean into it an opportunity to kind of check ourselves and reflect. And look, I'm not going to lie, when, very early on I was like, wow, I didn't really have a life, did I? My life revolved around, taking my son out to lunch, or maybe we went to a dinner and, obviously catching up with people, but I wasn't doing anything else outside of those sort of consumerables to actually help myself, or to nourish myself. And I love that. I was like, wow, okay, all right, cool. I'm down with this. Let's do something different. Let's explore, what's out there. And to your point, you're like, oh, I like listening to podcasts. And I'm enjoying learning, which, if you would ask me a year ago, 2 years ago, 10 years ago, whether or not I'd be interested in self-education, I would have laughed. Like, no way. Like, why on earth would I want to waste my time doing that? Now I'm like, well, what else have you got? Why continuing to broaden your horizon and have this and build this relationship with ourselves is really, really important, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I love that you learned that for yourself too. That's an important thing too that comes up with my clients. It's like when you're a mom and like exploring what you do, like when the kids aren't around, or like it's a very uncomfortable thing, I think, for a lot of moms. Like if your family isn't the main focus, then what is left? Then what do you do with yourself? You know, it's such an uncomfortable thing for a lot of women. Like, what do you do with yourself? Like, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And I know for myself because, you know, I've got a co-parenting relationship with my son's dad. And so we split our time. And for the first couple of years, and look, I mean, he was young, so it's always hard to sort of give your baby away, so to speak. Not really. I'm being indulgent now. But, you know, when that happens, it's like, yeah, okay, what do I do now? But there's so many, I feel now, I mean, I'm in a different space, but now there's so many things I can do, right? As opposed to sitting there, oh no, sad. It's just a different perspective. Oh, wow. I think there's just so many great points that you have shared with everyone today. And I think it would be important for our viewers to continue to follow some of the work that you do. Talk to us a little bit about that, and so the audience just gets an idea for those who don't know you.
Oh, sure. Like where they could find me, or
yeah, where they can find you.
Oh, sure. Awesome. Yes, I love to go on Instagram. You could find me at instagram.com/sugarfree.selfcare, or you could go on sugarfreeselfcare.com. Like, you could actually, I have a free quiz where you could learn about which impulsive eating type you are. There's 4 different types of impulsive eating types, in case you're not sure. Like, if you want to gain awareness of your eating habits, that's a good place to start. So I have that free quiz on my website.
Yeah, awesome. I'll send that link out to everyone as well, because I don't know. Oh, now I'm curious. I'll have to do the quiz, huh?
It's super fun.
I probably already know, to be honest. Mine's not sugar. It's wine, which is sugar. You know. Oh, I need a glass of wine to unwind for the day.
Right. That's a really common one. You're not. That was me for a long time too. So you're not alone.
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, okay, guys, that's a good place to start. And I know that this is a really, really important topic for a whole, well, I'm going to say everyone. You know, even the best of us, I think we need that reminder. And one thing that I really do want people to hear in this conversation that I've had with Charmaine is that there's so much more that needs to be addressed. It's not about the weight. Charmaine, is that how you would phrase it? How would you phrase it for your clients? And yeah.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Like, it's not about the number on the scale. It's not even about the food. It's about your relationship with your own self, and like how you're treating yourself, like, at the end of the day. Because the numbers and the food, it only reflects back to you what you're thinking about yourself.
Ooh, wow. Hang on. Wait, say that again.
Yeah, the number on the scale and the food, your relationship, the food you're eating, it's only reflecting back to you your thoughts about yourself.
Wow. Hang on. Sorry, I'm just going to throw my cat on there. Bad timing, cat. No, that's important. That made me really think about that. I love that. And I hope for all the women who are watching this today, and the men as well, because this is applicable. All of those behaviors, all of those patterns, it's a reflection of how we're feeling about ourselves. And I think it's a timely, and I can't remember the quote offhand. Gosh, now I think I'm going to lose. Oh, man. There's a really famous quote that we're kinder to, like, if we were as kind to ourselves as we are to other people, like the way that our own negative self-talk, how we disrespect ourselves, you know, that relationship that we have with ourselves, how we talk to ourselves, we wouldn't talk to our worst enemy in that way. You know, and so I really want to thank you on behalf of everyone for pulling that out and giving us some perspective on that journey, which is an ongoing journey, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen.
Right. It never stops. But the good news is that when you are more aware of those thoughts that you're having, and you're starting, like, this is the work. Like when you start to change a habit, that's something I also tell people, like, expect the confusion, expect the anxiety, expect the messiness. Like that's part of the process. And then each time you go through that messiness and the judgments and the failures, you always learn something from that to move you to where you want to be, like to become the person you actually want to become. So but we need that sort of weird confusion, awkwardness, because that's where the growth happens. So don't run away from that. You want to lean into that and learn from all those messes and mistakes, and that helps you become who you want to be.
Absolutely. Fail forward is my thing. And I'll just sort of, before we close out here, to reiterate that whole concept is that we are trained to strive for this idea of perfection, which you and I know doesn't exist. Mm-hmm. But because we're trained to think about everything, to be perfect, that's not real life. And the growth does happen in all the stuckness or stickiness. And yeah, to your point, when you do hit the other side, you have a completely different relationship. And yes, it's still ongoing, but that's life, right?
Right.
You have fun in the mess.
The imperfection of it. But go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's all. No, you said it beautifully. Thank you so much. I know that our audience, people who watch this, are going to get so much value from it. And I would really, really encourage people who are watching, whether it be now, live, or later on, to please share this. If you know anyone, and we all know someone, no one will admit it, but we all know people who are constantly struggling. Actually, let's remove the word struggle. But we all know people who, are working on this. And I think there's some really important messages for people to hear in this talk today, which is just, self-discovery, a relationship with ourselves, loving ourselves. I know. Self-care. Like, I could pull so many different things from this, but I think it's really, really important. So I encourage you, please pay it forward. Share this, tag someone. Great job. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing this virtual space with me, talking to not just my community, your own community, and other people out there today. It's been really, really insightful. And I'm really happy that I had you on here to talk what I know to be a really important topic.
Thank you so much. I really had a lot of fun, and I'm so grateful to share this space with you. So thank you.
Yeah. All right, everyone. We'll see you later. I will send some links out so that you can access Charmaine's stuff. All righty. Bye.
Bye.